Now, before we get into proper introductions, I would like to ask our Johnson County Road Supervisor, Mr. Philip Keaton, to lead us in a word of prayer. Mr. Keaton.
Dash bow your heads, please. Our Heavenly Father, God, as we've gathered here today on behalf of this benefit, God, we want to thank you first and foremost. But one thing, Father, that's been on our mind all day is we recognize that it's 9/11 and all those families that lost those loved ones, God. We ask that you would continue, even though it's been 18 years, we ask that you continue to be near and dear to their heart. And Heavenly Father, it's an honor, a privilege to live in Kentucky, and it's an honor to have the leadership that we have in place. And Heavenly Father, we ask that you just continue to bless the leadership from a governor's perspective and even from a presidential perspective. And Father, we ask that we as a county would unite our hearts together and become one, that we can serve you, and not only serve you, that we can serve each other and serve the county, which we are so richly blessed to live within. We ask you to be with us speaking tonight, that you would just grant your blessing upon each one that's come out here, the families that's represented, and Father, keep your hand of mercy upon us. And we give you the praise and the glory for all you do. For it's in your Son's name, Jesus, and amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Keaton, for a wonderful prayer. Now, today is my distinct privilege to make some introductions to you folks. Now, I'm a young man. I'm still climbing that corporate ladder. So although I don't get to introduce the man of the hour today, I do get to introduce you to the man about town. Ladies and gentlemen, the Right Honorable Bill McRudgeon, Mayor of Paintsville.
I'll tell you what, when I get him home, I can still whip him. I can promise you that. Great job, Matt. Great job. We're honored here today on behalf of Paintsville City Council, and I also got some office members there. We're grateful to have the governor of the great state of Kentucky, Governor Matt Bevin.
Truly, I mean, coming out on a Wednesday in the afternoon, people have a lot of other places you could be, a lot of things to do. It is cooler in here than it is outside. That's the one thing for it. But thank you so much, and thank you to those who prepared, the refreshments in the back and put everything together. This is a privilege to be here with you. It really is, and I was struck by a couple of things. The reminder that this is 9/11. The words in your invocation that we are indeed richly blessed. Those are the exact words, and it's true. I mean, not just to be here in Johnson County, not just specifically in Paintsville, but to be Kentuckians and to be Americans. We are blessed indeed. This is, we just pledged our allegiance, one nation under God, indivisible. You think about it. I hope we never forget. We use that term when we talk about 9/11. There's some in this room, who were just young, some who hadn't even been born yet 18 years ago. But for those of us of a certain age, especially like me, you're in the second, half of life at this point. And I would say, even though we are getting older as a society, once you're over 50, you're pretty much going downhill at that point. So let's be honest with ourselves here. At least parts of our body are going downhill, let's put it that way. But here's the reality. If you're of a certain age, you remember exactly where you were. You remember the way in which we felt when we realized what was happening to our nation. And we said we would never forget. And on September 12 and September 13 and September 14 and 15 and even October 11 and 12 and 13 of 2001, we didn't forget. And we did remember. And many more of us went to church, and many more of us had dinner around the table with our families, and many more of us huddled together with our families and told our kids that we loved them and put our arms around people, and many more of us made calls to our parents and the people that maybe we hadn't been as close to, or whatever the case was, because we were swearing that we would never forget. But we have started to forget a bit. And so I'm grateful to you that you took time today to remind us of why we are blessed, that we pledged our allegiance to this flag, that we honor the colors of our nation in this rainbow of balloons, that we have made mention of the sacrifice even in the invocation. And so thank you for that. I really mean it. It means a lot to me. You know, as a military veteran, I shared this just down the road a moment ago. You know, there's guys that were my age, you know, that would have had children, the age of even some of you, who they've never gotten to see them graduate because they gave their lives in a military uniform. And there were 3,400 of our fellow citizens who gave their lives, some willingly as first responders, but many unwittingly happened to be victims of a terrible atrocity. And I do hope we will never forget. And to each and every one of you, thank you for being a part of the fabric of this community. Thanks for taking the time to be here. This really matters more than anything else. And I see young people here. You're the future generation. Those of you that are under 20, we're doing this for you. My wife and I are blessed. We have 9 children, which is a lot of little people. They're 20 down to 9 years old. And their future is going to be determined by things I do and those behind me on this stage. You've got state representatives, you've got local mayors, you've got judge executives. These are the people that you've entrusted. In my case as governor. The one thing I'll tell you, not a shocker to you, for those of you who know it, we're just normal people. We have plenty of things we're good at and plenty of things we're not good at. We do things right, we do things wrong. That's the reality of it. And there is nobody who ever puts themselves forward for any of these positions that's ever going to be a perfect person. But collectively, you've trusted us to lead on certain fronts, and so thank you for that. But expect great things of us. Expect us to work for you. Expect us to answer you. Expect us to answer your calls and to be accessible to you. I'm here on a couple of fronts. I want to do 2 things. I want to announce a couple of things that are kind of exciting and that I'm grateful for. Your judge executive and your fiscal court have spent a lot of time talking to Ray Tom and other members of our, is Gray here by chance? There he is in the back. If this guy doesn't look familiar to you, you haven't been coming to fiscal court meetings in any county in Kentucky. How many meetings have you been to in the last couple, 3 years? A lot. 100 and something, I'm sure. This is a man who's an extension of our transportation cabinet. And what I asked our transportation secretary to do 3 years ago now, I guess, I said, let's, instead of us sitting here in Frankfurt and dictating where the monies go, instead of us playing politics, which is the way things often used to work, that if you were an R county or a D county, you either got rewarded or punished based on who was in office. That's crazy. It should not work that way at all. It just shouldn't. Shouldn't be a function of, well, if you gave to this person, or if you supported that person, or if you, then suddenly blacktop gets laid down in your community. And so I said to Greg Thomas, the transportation secretary, let's just get out and go to the fiscal court meetings. Let's ask the judge executives and the mayors. Let's ask the local elected officials, where is their need? You know the community. We're not going to sit here in Frankfurt and pretend we know what's best for you. And so I'm excited to announce a couple of projects that are going to be getting done. Yes, we have discretion over these road funds. They're called discretionary road funds. But I'll remind you, and please, I'm telling you, it's great to be excited when money comes to you. And there's cause for celebration. But it's your money. It's your money. You're getting your own money back. So, I mean, getting too excited about getting your own money back is like being excited about getting a tax refund. All you did was loan it to the government with no interest for a while. So, I mean, it's your money. But here again, I'm grateful to be in a position where we can listen to the people you trust, who can tell us, hey, there's $100 worth of desire, $10 worth of need, and only $1 to go around. How do we allocate it? So I'm happy to announce a couple of things. Before I even announce these 2 things, how far are we away from, we're looking at 1428. That's about almost $1.2 million we put into that project in recent months, and that should be done in the next 30 days, maybe? Next week. Outstanding. Good. I know it's been a long time in coming. It was a couple of years before you even thought anything would even get done with that being shut down. But 1428 should be ready then within about a week. And so I'm happy for that as well. That isn't even here what I came to announce, but that's certainly something that's meaningful to those of you in this community. 2 things. First of all, for the city of Paintsville, we're announcing that we're going to give you, of your own money, $197,788 for road resurfacing, specifically for Mill Branch Road. So any of you that are on Mill Branch Road or use Mill Branch Road, this is on the south side, $178,487. On 2nd Street, $31,395. And on 6th Street, $87,906. So a couple $100,000 total that'll be used here in this city. So congratulations. He's the guy who this project for us. He and the local elected officials said this is where the money is needed and this is why you're getting it. At the county level, you know, I will say this, thank you for electing these men, by the way. Your judge executive is a guy who I've gotten to know, I've spent a lot of time with. I mean, my gracious, I don't know how many times we've seen each other in the last 6, 12 months, a lot. He comes to Frankfurt often, and my door is open to him and my ear is open to him. I have a lot of respect for him. He's a man who works hard on behalf of your community. And I appreciate that, I really do. I mean, not every county can say the same. Increasingly they can, but still not everyone can. You can. You've elected a good man who works hard, and he has been advocating for you. So I'm delighted to be able to announce for some discretionary road monies for the county, $378,041, specifically to be used on the following projects. Blanton Branch Road, $57,884. Buttermilk Branch Road, $90,219. Whippoorwill Road, $103,991. Bob's Branch Road, $62,175. And Butcher Hollow Road, $63,772. So again, a sum total of about $378,000. Congratulations. Deserve the credit for this. Again, they and the work that they did with Gray in helping us to realize the need. And these projects will be probably let in the next, 30 days. Is that fair to say?
Like I said earlier, when they get the paperwork, Secretary Thomas,
Yeah.
they said I'll do it now.
So if it's not happening, it's because we haven't got your paperwork, so no pressure. They'll be all over it. I'm confident. Well, the paperwork will probably get to Frankfurt before I do here. I'm willing to bet. So just a couple other things real quickly, and then what I want to do is take questions from you on anything. You took time to be here. Any question you have about anything. It could be related to roads, it could be related to pensions, it could be related to schools, it could be related to just the community, it could be related to things happening nationally. Anything you want to talk about, you derive that in a minute. I just want to make mention of a couple of things. These have been announced. How many of you went to the SOAR Summit? Any of you all? Good. So a number of you were there. $34.4 million worth of grants have been announced. And these things have been in the queue for some time. They've been in the making. There'll be more next year. So it's nothing new. It's not a once-in-a-lifetime thing, but it's a significant amount of money. And Congressman Rogers deserves a lot of credit for this. I hope you do understand that we're blessed to have somebody with his seniority too. And he's a guy who really does continue, even though he's been there 40 years now almost, 38 plus years, 39 I guess and change. It's a long time that he has served us. But he is able to use the influence he has to take monies that came from abandoned mine lands that have been sitting in a fund in Washington, D.C., a couple $1 billion just sitting there. And he's like, they're not doing anybody back in the communities they came from any good. Why don't we uncork some of those monies? And so he's done a good job, and then making the case to his colleagues in the Senate, including our senators, Paul and McConnell, and then collectively have released these monies back into the communities, not only Kentucky, but also Ohio and Virginia and West Virginia, etc. So the Appalachian region where these mine lands have been abandoned. And so a couple of projects that have been announced. The Big Sandy Regional Industrial Authority is getting $2 million. And this has been announced a couple times, but just as a reminder if you hadn't heard it. And this is going to be becoming a 200,000 square foot facility. And this is something, Chuck, you can probably speak to this. If you don't know Chuck Sexton, he's a guy who, on behalf of economic development for this whole region, busts his tail all over the world, literally, on your behalf. And I appreciate you, I really do. I mean, I run into him everywhere, in Kentucky and outside of Kentucky, and sometimes outside of the country. And he works hard and tirelessly. But what we've come to realize that in some of these communities, there's guys who are getting a tremendous set of skills. These guys over at Economy, how many of you, and it's all right if you haven't, but how many of you have never yet had a chance to go up the hill to the Advanced Manufacturing Institute in the center there and take a look at the Haas Economy Center? Have never been inside there. So a few of you. I would encourage you, please, And especially, you've got the equipment to be able to capture what you see. Get up there, and in all seriousness, it is impressive. And you will see men and women like those that were out here, some of whom are in here with us, who are learning a set of skills that are in such demand the world over, that they are driving people's interest in our community. The very first people, Kathy and I talked about this years ago before I was even the governor. And this incidentally is the first political job I've ever had. But when I was a candidate and running and I met her for the first time, we talked about the possibility of this. And I told her, I said, listen, there's this old building up there that the city and the state had invested a lot in, and it was going to be this and it was going to be that, and it was currently pretty much nothing. And it just seemed frustrating to have this great asset not being used. And I remember telling Kathy, who's another great gem in this community, a lot of great people come out of this community. And I remember telling you, I said, listen, if I win, I'm going to be back and help you get this open, and if I don't win, I'm going to be back and help you get this open. I'll either do it as a governor or I'll do it as a private citizen. And it has been fun to see this thing blossom. And the reason it has blossomed is because the caliber of the men and women that you see around this room wearing these black shirts with the eCommy logo on it, the skills that we are rich in this community, the world needs them and the world wants them. And when you harness that natural intellectual curiosity, the skill set, the ingenuity that's sort of innate within the people of this region, and you skill that up and you train that up with advanced manufacturing techniques, CNC, machining and lathing, the kind of things that the world needs as we get more and more sophisticated with making more advanced 21st century parts. These are the kind of things that are happening right here in our community. And the very first two people to ever graduate with these skills didn't graduate here. We sent them up to Indiana. They arrived for a program that was how long was that original program? 15 weeks. And they got up there 2 weeks late. So they only had 13 weeks. So they were 2 weeks late in getting up. This is in Vincennes, Indiana. And they got up there 2 weeks into the program. And they didn't really want to take them because they said they're a little behind. They might be able to catch up, but it's not fair to them. Why don't we wait till the next cycle? And Kathy, who's not easily denied when she has a sense of purpose, said, listen, just trust us. If you don't think a week or 2 or 3 weeks in that they're cutting it, send them home. They understand that's a risk. They're willing to do what it takes. They ended up being in the top 3 graduates, including the #1 graduate. They might have even been #2. I think they were #1 and 3 or something like that. I know we had the top graduate, and then both of them finished at the top of their class, even though they started late. And the people up there said, good grief, where do you get those people from? We said, we got tons of them. We got tons of them. And so eventually, then another class went up there again. Once again, top graduate in the class came out of this community. 2 classes in a row. And then we began to work with Haas, and we began to work with the people there. We said, listen, let's put one right in our community. Why are we sending you guys up the road to Indiana, having you separated from your families, incurring the cost and the trouble with all that? So now it's in this community, and we're putting dozens of people with crazy skills out into the community. And as I shared with them, and it's true, it is a matter of time of already having these conversations with big companies you recognize, large and small, who understand that they need workforce, who can't find it. And I said, listen, if you'd be willing to put an operation in eastern Kentucky, put an operation in Paintsville, in Johnson County, or in Pictou County, in the surrounding area. There are young people, and some not so young, with a tremendous set of skills that will be loyal, that will be working hard for you, that will be grateful for a job. The turnover will be lower. These guys are going out of here and going up and working at places like Lockheed Martin, making $25, $30 an hour plus benefits. Those are great jobs. But I want those jobs to be in this community. I don't want people to have to drive away for those jobs. So this is what's coming. This is why these road projects matter. Infrastructure matters. Making sure you can get people and goods and services in and out of this community matters. And so I'm grateful to each and every one of you. Thanks for taking and seizing the bull by the horns. I mean, it's made a profound impression on the White House. When they came, when Ivanka came down here and saw what was going on, they continued to talk about it. In fact, when I was in the White House yesterday, and they have pictures and they turn them over every 3 months. But when I was up there shortly after her visit, there were pictures of her and the team on the walls inside the White House, which was just kind of cool to see that. Every 3 months they turned the pictures over up there. So I didn't see them this most recent time. But a lot of good things. Kentucky has never been on the radar screen like we are now. Never. We've never had a president of the United States visit us as often as this president has. A vice president visit us as often as this vice president. And I was with both of them last night. I'm grateful to call them personal friends, but also to have a good professional relationship with them. It's important for us. You don't have to like me or them to be glad that your state has that kind of relationship. You really, you want the governor of your state to have a good working relationship with the president of your country. You just do. I will tell you this, it will never be bad for your state if that's the case. And I'm telling you, with cabinet secretaries, I was up there because another Kentuckian was being sworn in as the ambassador to the United Nations. One of the most influential, forward-facing, literally while we were in the Oval Office getting ready to get sworn in, word was coming in that the embassy in Kabul was being attacked and had been bombed. So talk about baptism by fire. Here's this woman who's a Kentuckian born and raised in Barron County, taking her oath of office. And she's being told that she's going to literally immediately have to be dealing with some pretty heady things. How awesome that Kentucky is on the front seat for these things. This is what's happening here. These kind of things are extraordinary. The young man that was taking the pictures of this event in the White House, the last time I saw him, he was stepping off of Air Force One here in Kentucky. He, born and raised in Pike County, used to work for me until Ivanka found him when she came to visit, and she hired him and took him away. But these are the kind of people. There's a young man, Dr. Howard, Jeff Howard, grew up in eastern Kentucky. He was the head of health services for Kentucky. He oversaw all of our health departments in the state as my top medical officer. In his 30s, the youngest such guy in the country. Grew up in the most drug-afflicted home, so broken and shattered, he literally, as a kid, had to leave that situation of his own volition, left because he couldn't make sense of it. His mother in and out of addiction, his father in and out of the home, largely gone, in and out of prison in both cases. And this is a young man who seemingly came from a chance of nothing. And not only did I was grateful to appoint him, and he's been excellent. But then I nominated him to be a White House fellow. He just recently was selected. It's a highly competitive process. Very few people are ever selected. And he'll spend a year going, 1 year he'll be embedded inside the Health and Human Services Cabinet, working with the White House, working as a policy advisor to the Vice President, and then he'll come home again. And these are Kentuckians. Those are just a couple. There are others. My former head of communications, born and raised here in Kentucky, is now the deputy head of communications in the White House for the president, has been for 3 years. These are Kentuckians. They're people like all of us. They're our kids. They're going and they're changing the world. It's awesome. I love it. Truly, I love it. And this is why I do what I do. I love this state. I love this country. And so I'm grateful to be able to announce these things, these projects. When we build this 200,000 square foot building, it's going to be filled with people like you. It's going to attract companies that want to come here and make things. And also one other thing I wanted to announce. Again, it's been out there. The park over at the International Landing Zone, it's $1.37 million is being invested into a 33,000 square foot building that's being retrofitted. And this is going to be able to help companies to come in who need some space initially and aren't necessarily going to take a whole building, but for a period of time to help them to launch what they're doing in our community. So over almost $3.5 million that we're investing in this region to create physical space for people to do the skills that you all are developing, among other things. So a lot of good things happening, a lot of really good things happening. And we've got a lot going on in this state, even now. What questions do you have about anything at all that I could answer?
Governor, could you comment on Brady Industries?
Sure. Yeah, Brady Industries is a company that was announced up in Ashland, up in the Ashland area, in Boyd-Greenup County region. It's an aluminum rolling mill. It's the first aluminum rolling mill to be scheduled to be built in almost 40 years in this country. It's about the exact number isn't known to you. It's somewhere $1.5 billion project. They've raised, it's the biggest difficulty with all of these things is capital needed to get them out of the gate. They've currently raised, I think, 60 to 100 million. And I know that I was talking to them recently, and when I was last in Ashland, I stopped by their offices, and they had some people from Mitsubishi in there who were looking to be partnering with them because they wanted some of the materials, but also wanted to be a financial partner. We're looking at a $100 million investment. I spent some time speaking with those folks, and my understanding is they're now looking to double that to make it a $200 million investment. Again, all of these things, the exact timing of them, I don't know. It's a private company. I don't have direct involvement with it. But it is transforming that community. I don't know how much you all spend time up the road in Ashland, but just the mood and the enthusiasm, the price of real estate, the restaurants downtown, the hotels that are opening, the buzz that is there, not just in Ashland, but in that surrounding community across the river, you know, Portsmouth and all these different places. It's awesome to see. And it takes time, it really does. They had hoped to and had initially projected to really have that thing up and operational, I think, by 2020 or 2021. And I don't know if they're still on target for that, but I know they're not far off it. I mean, they've broken ground. There's some of the infrastructure is being developed, but they still have a ways to go. But it's, you know, of the 1.5 billion, call it, I think they were trying to raise, and again, don't hold me to these numbers because I don't speak for them, but about $500 million in equity and about $1 billion in debt. The $1 billion in debt's the easy part. People, it's the people that will put the cash on the barrelhead is the tougher part. But there are 100 and some odd million. I know they had 60 plus last time I knew already in hand and being deployed. And then they had a commitment for 200 million. So that 60 was part of a 200 million, and every month they draw down another 15 or 20 of that, I forget. And then they were trying to get another couple of $100 million. But they've already sold their first 7 years worth of production. And to major companies that you've heard of, you know, the BMWs of the world are buying. They'd say, listen, we'll buy everything you can produce. That's a good problem to have. But they actually have to get the thing up and open. But it's still underway. I know that Craig Bouchard, who's their CEO, continues to keep his foot on the gas. And he's a guy who loves our community. He loves this region. That's a company that chose to come here when they could have gone somewhere else. So I'm grateful for that. But it's moving along. It really is. Nothing ever moves as fast as all of us would like, but it's coming. Other questions about anything at all? Yes, sir.
I've got a statement of praise. Son of a...
I feel like I'm at church here.
I get emotional when I talk about this because it means so much to us. My dad's a retired coal miner, 37 years. I've seen the great things that the coal industry has brought to the region and the plight that we're in now. I'm so thankful for your Workforce Ready Skills Initiative. It's transforming our region. At Paintsville Independent School, which is the best school system in the world.
I kid you.
Proud to be there.
You're bragging on it, but I'm telling you, nobody could really argue with that
Let
statement.
me tell you what we're doing now. This year alone, thanks to our great leadership team, our board members, our wonderful high school principal, we are offering 42 additional classes that didn't exist last year that are in the workforce industry sector.
Awesome.
We couldn't do that without your thoughts on high school graduation, high school curriculum. I tell people all the time, industry, you tell us what you want, we'll figure out a way to educate the workforce. Because of that initiative, Paintsville Independence now gets 20-25% of our total student population are in those pathways. So I just want to thank you for that, because as a son of a coal miner, I want my kids to live here, not leave. So thank you for that.
You're welcome, and I thank you in return for seizing that, because every school district has been given that same opportunity. And understand this, I've shared this with some of you all before, but where I grew up was very rural. It was a county 2.5 times the size of Pike County, with half as many people. So imagine Pike County that's 20% as populated. That's where I grew up, in the mountains. It was in northern New Hampshire, near the Canadian border, in the woods. A lot of mountains, not a lot of people. And most of the kids didn't go to college, but they all went and worked. And it was clear to me, I was blessed with a chance to go to college, and I did, and I went in the military. But I tell you what, most people wanted to just get the skills needed to work. So when I became elected, I said, listen, I want to just create opportunities for people. Initially, we looked at things like dual credit. We put a lot of money into dual credit. And we said, listen, it's not just to get a 4-year degree or even just a 2-year degree. Now let's make it available so you can use it for certifications. You're going to get your welding certification. You can use dual credit training so that taxpayer money will be helping you while you're a high school student to come out of high school. Heck, we've got kids coming out, maybe even out of your system, that have associate's degrees by the time they graduate from high school. It's awesome. Some of them earn the associate's degree qualifications even before they graduate from high school. You know, these things are possible because I know the caliber of people. Not everybody needs or wants to go to a 4-year program, or even to do it right out of the gate. So then I thought about what else we could do, and we came up with that $100 million program, and then we asked the local high school, the local post-secondary school, and we asked the local business community to all three work together and say, if you could compete for some of this $100 million, how would you want it to be spent? What programs could we come alongside? We're not looking to build new buildings with that money. What can we do to come alongside with the kind of skills and training and equipment to bring these things to fruition, these 42 type programs? And folks like you all took that seriously. So we had $540 million worth of applications for $100 million. And we chose the top 18% or so. And that money was matched by local dollars from private sector people and from local government by another $150 million. So we put another $150, $250 million in this state in the last 3 years invested into things exactly like this. That's a lot of money, $250 million. And then about 1.5 years ago, we started these work-ready scholarships. And this is something for people, you could be 18, you could be 48, 52 in my case, or any age you want to be. Doesn't matter. You can be any age if you have never attained an associate's level degree in your life or higher. And you want to go back and study in one of 5 disciplines: healthcare, IT, advanced manufacturing, logistics, or construction trades. And underneath there's 60 sub-disciplines, and there's hundreds of disciplines even beneath that. In any of those areas, if you want to pursue 2 years worth of skilling, and it could be a degree, it could be certifications, but the state will pay last dollar for up to 2 years of you to pursue whatever it takes to get a job in those fields. Because we have 100,000 open jobs right now in those areas. 100,000. And so we don't care if you're 18 or 48 or whatever. If you want to go back, I was at the fair, a couple weeks back. And literally, I was looking at the rabbits. And I met a father and son the son was showing rabbits. They had rabbits there. They were in 4-H. Both the father and the son right now are getting their electrical certification, electrical technician certification right now together, both of them. The father and the son are both getting their certifications right now using those work-ready scholarships. That just almost made me cry. I was so grateful.
Well, it does tear us up, but 2 things before you leave. We want you to come and visit the good things that we're doing.
I'll come.
We need you to see it. And the second thing is, when is round 3 for the workforce scholarship? And if we want to get in on it, we want to apply for that next round.
Here's the thing. This is going to depend on your legislature. I'll tell you what, it'll be in my next budget. Whether it stays in the next budget is going to be dependent on people like others that get to vote on this. Just saying, no pressure. But in all seriousness, it will be. It was in my last budget, and they took it out. It'll be in my next budget because I know we get good return on that money. That is money well spent. So it's coming. It's a good investment in our future. Because I'm like you, I want our kids to be able to. Somebody asked me a long time ago, what do I hope? When I'm all long gone from this job, what do I hope people remember? And what I said is, listen, I want the governors of Tennessee and Texas and Florida and North Carolina and wherever. I want them to wonder why all their kids have to go to Kentucky to get a job. Instead of the other way around. Because I find myself and friends of ours whose kids are starting to heading to other places to get a job. That's crazy. We're better than that. Other questions about anything at all? Questions, comments, thoughts? Yes, sir?
What are your plans for future involvement with ECAM Direct?
What are my personal plans for involvement with ECAM? To continue to love on you guys and support them. And I'm being completely serious. I've been there a number of times. You know that. Some of you I've met for the first time. Others of you I've met, on multiple occasions. I was there when it was a twinkle in the eye, when there was nothing there. I was there when the first signs went up. The conference room table you have, I gave to eCounty because it was one of my old companies. I had it. It was sitting in my barn. I was like, it's not doing any good in my barn. You guys need a conference room table? I got one for you. So, it's at the risk of sounding patronizing, I'm proud of you all. I really am. I feel kind of like you're a part of my family. I feel, having seen this come from an idea to something that is so awesome, gives me a great amount of pride and great joy, frankly. And so you'll expect to see me a lot. I'll be there as often as I can. I wish I had more time for it, frankly. Next 2 months, my life is kind of being sucked away from me. But you all get to decide whether for the next 4 years you'll see more of me. You'll see me one way or the other. Let me just say this on the political front. This isn't a political conversation per se, and so I'm not going to make this specific other than to say this: vote. Vote. Whoever you vote for is your business, but don't not vote. I mean, you think about days like 9/11. You think about the people who have defended this nation's flag through the years. Well over 1 million have given their lives in uniform. And to give us the right to go and vote, please register to vote. If you're not registered to vote, be registered by this month so you can vote. I think that the deadline is maybe October 4th, but don't wait till the deadline. Make sure you get out there and vote. Vote your values. Whatever your party is not as relevant. It really isn't. I mean, do you believe in the sanctity of human life? Is that worth defending? Because in the governor's race and in some of the other races, you have a clear choice on that front. I'm a person who's been very strongly, proudly, I love it when people say I'm the most pro-life governor in America. They're right, probably. But it shouldn't have to be. I mean, the reality is everybody should defend human life. That's a clear choice for some. Not everybody cares about that issue. Not everybody agrees with my stance on it. But that's something, if that is important to you, let your voice be heard. If your Second Amendment rights matter to you, let your voice be heard. Because I'm telling you, today in Washington and this week, you're going to see a lot of effort made. A lot is being made right now. I mean, you listen to Nancy Pelosi last night was saying literally that if they don't get the gun restriction laws passed that they want, that there's going to be hell to pay. Her exact words. I mean, that's crazy. These are people who want to put laws on law-abiding people that, frankly, the non-law-abiding people aren't going to pay attention to any more than they are the ones that say you shouldn't kill people. So it's not going to stop the unlaw-abiding people. It's just going to punish the law-abiding people. If those things matter to you, make sure your voice is heard. These are not Republican or Democrat issues. They shouldn't be. These are about values and core values. If you respect God and country, if you respect law enforcement, if you respect our military, if these things matter, let your voice be heard. If you care about jobs and you care about investments, and I'm grateful. I mean, you've got companies like Appalachian Wireless, and I say this not to be, again, gratuitous, but who have invested a lot in this community, who are capturing this broadband initiative and are going to bring this final mile into the communities and into the homes. If you care about companies like that having less red tape and more ability to do what is needed, one of the reasons this road project, 1428, was so bottled up for so long is because the right-of-ways couldn't be gotten because people got way out ahead of themselves. The same thing happened with this wired project. But once these things get done, if you want to cut red tape and get jobs created in a community, then let your voice be heard. These, again, shouldn't be R or D things. It's about what's best for our kids and our grandkids and whether these kids that are coming out of the school system here find a way home again. You know? Hopefully never having had to leave except maybe to go away for school for a bit. The reality is this. This is up to us. Government of and by and for the people only works if we take it seriously. It's our responsibility. So I appreciate it and expect to see a lot of you, I'm telling you. I love what you're doing. And here's what I'm going to celebrate the most, and it's going to happen, is the first company that comes here, it doesn't just hire the people, it builds a location here to keep the people that it hires in this community. I'll be as happy as I don't know what, a pig in mud. I'll be happy. Any final questions before I don't mean to keep you all held captive here, but anything else at all?
I have a request.
Yes, ma'am.
Before you leave, can we get a team photo with Gray and Mary and you and Judge
Sure.
and the mayor?
Sure, that'd be awesome. We'll stand right down here in front maybe or something. That'd be great, yes, ma'am. Any other questions, thoughts, comments about anything at all? I'll touch on one thing real quick because you didn't ask about it, but it's topical. Please understand, when you hear about issues and people want to paint them in black and white and it's this or that, the pension system in this state is in terrible shape. It is in tremendously great risk of failing. I'm the only governor that has ever fully funded this system. Everybody before me has ignored this problem, has kicked it down the road, lied to people, told them it was going to be fine. Not only have I been the only governor to ever fully fund it, but I'm also telling you while fully funding it, that it's not going to be fine. That it still runs a great risk of failure. And I've had people say to me, oh, well, you bring that up because you're doing that for political reasons. Really? How's that working for me? Real winner, isn't it? I mean, seriously. I mean, it's a political loser, I understand that. I'm not saying this because it's politically expedient. And this whole nonsense about how supposedly there's this war with teachers, nonsense. Let me tell you something really quickly. My mother's father and all of her grandparents were born in another country. They came here as immigrants through Ellis Island. They came here not speaking language, came for the American dream. Her mother was born here in 1909, my mom's mom, in the United States. First person in her family to ever be born in the United States. First person to ever get an education. What do you suppose she wanted to do? She wanted to be a teacher. And so she did. Not many women born in America in 1909 got any kind of degree, let alone a graduate degree on top of an undergraduate degree. Both of them in public education, spent her whole life in public education. She was widowed when my mom was a kid. And so my grandmother raised two girls as a single mom public school teacher, and the only thing she had to retire on was a public school teacher's pension check. She lived to be 94 years old. This is why I fight for this, even though there's a lot of misrepresentation. On my father's side of the family, the first Bevins came to Kentucky, or actually to the United States, in 1644. 300 and however many years ago that is, a long time ago. And so you think about that, for 350 some odd years or whatever it's been, Bevins have been here, the first Bevin to ever go to college, ever have a chance to go on after high school, was my father. What do you suppose he wanted to do? Be an educator. What do you suppose he got his undergraduate degree in? Public education. What do you suppose he got his graduate degree in? Public education. I have 5 siblings. What do you suppose 2 of them did with their lives? Got their degrees in public education. I still have a sister who's a 4th grade school teacher here in Kentucky. The reality is this, I'm fighting for the very people that people are being lied to and told that I'm working against. It's the exact opposite. I'm busting my tail for people like my grandmother who would have been destitute, truly destitute, if she had had checks stop coming. And we run a real risk of these checks not coming. We still do. Even last year, the markets were up strong. The markets are at record levels of success. And we fully funded the pension, put all those billions of dollars in, and it caught the wind of a rising market. And KTRS still lost $300 million, even though it was fully funded and had a massive headwind, or support, I should say, from the markets. Still lost hundreds of millions of dollars. How is that if the system is sound? It's not sound. It's broken. And what's sad and heartbreaking is that in that KTRS system, there's about 75,000 active or part-time people and about 50,000 that are retired, roughly, in that system. But 38% of those that are still working are eligible for retirement and will retire in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, which means what's this is going to become this. And in Kentucky, it's already this. There's more retirees now in Kentucky than there are workers. The system's over. It only works when there's more people paying in than taking out. You cannot work for 20 or 30 years and then retire for 20 or 30 or 40 years making as much or almost as much and think that it's going to be solvent. You can't. You can't, even if you were paying 13% in the whole time, which some are now. It used to be 9, and it was 7. Before that, far enough back, it was nothing early on. But people have paid, let's say it's 13%. Let's say you make $50,000 a year. And let's say you do that for 30 years. And so you put in $6,500 a year every single year. That's a lot of money. And you do it for 30 years, that's $195,000 that you put in, and that's a lot of money. But you put in $195,000, and let's say you started at 22 and you retire at 52. And you're going to live to probably be 92. Let's be honest, many will. And let's say you live from 52 to 92. The average person retiring in KTRS last year, and it's all over the map, but it keeps going up. But last year, the average person who retired in KTRS retired drawing a salary of $62,374. Some, of course, are making less than that. Some are making more than that. But the average is $62,374, plus it goes up every year. Pretend that doesn't happen. Pretend that it doesn't include health care for life, which it does, which is worth thousands of dollars itself. Let's pretend it's only $60,000. If you retire at 52 and you're pulling $60,000, say, and you do that for 40 years, that's $2.4 million. You put away over the course of your career $195,000. In what world do you turn $195,000 into $2.4 million? It's just not possible. People have been lied to for a long time. It's no one's fault. No one's doing anything wrong. There's not one of us, if we were part of this, that would not be taking full advantage of everything that had been promised. Why wouldn't we? It's like not taking a tax refund when you're owed one. Of course you're going to take it. But the reality is this, it's not sustainable. It was only possible to perpetuate it when you had 10 or 20 people down here for every retiree. It kept working. But now it's inverted. KERS non-hazardous, which is the most poorly funded, KERS non-hazardous had about 13 cents in it for every single dollar that was owed. And I hear people in KTRS and CERS and others say, well, hey, we don't have that problem. We're 56, 7, 8% funded. You know who else was 56, 7, 8% funded 10 years ago? KERS non-hazardous. And when this happens, it's over. It's over. KERS non-hazardous last year ended with about $3 billion, a little less, paid out $1 billion, took in $100 million. How many years do they have left? You got $3 billion, you pay out $1 billion, and you take in $0.1 billion, 2-3 years before it's bankrupt. The money's gone. Then the only place it comes from is taking more and more. We put record levels into the pensions since I've been governor, and it's still losing money. How is that possible? Because it's structurally broken. The final thing I'll say is this: no matter what anyone tells you, if they tell you anything other than what I'm about to tell you, they're lying to you. And they cannot back it up with anything financially true. What I'm about to say is this: you cannot promise future people, future employees, the same thing that current and past employees have been promised, and expect that any of them will get it. You cannot. It is mathematically, actuarially impossible. And so all these things that people will tell you, hey, this, that, and the other thing, he hates these people and he's fighting against debt and he wants to undermine you. Nonsense. Nonsense. It's exactly the opposite. The reason I take the grief that I take from people and fight for this is because I know how critical this is. And I know the impact it has on people. And I don't want to see anybody when they suddenly get to be 70, 80, 90 years old and they can't go back and work. And all of a sudden the checks stop coming because people like me and those that preceded me just kicked the can down the road. I refuse to do it. And so think about these things too when you go to the ballot box. Because it's easy, especially during election season, to come and tell people what they want to hear. There's a verse in scriptures about giving itching ears what they want to hear. Well, boy, does that fit the world of politics. Gracious. But I don't need this job enough to lie to you for it. I don't, and I won't. And so expect that of whoever's in this seat, and whoever you send to Frankfurt, and whoever you send to county, local, elected positions as well. I'm grateful to you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for your time, and I will bid you adieu. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We'll take some pictures in just a second, but we want to obviously thank the governor for the discretionary funds. It's certainly going to help us to maintain roads, safe and quality roads for the citizens of this community. We appreciate that. And I'm thanking you on behalf of the mayor. And as you already mentioned, and we'll reinforce that folks at District 12 and Commissioner Tomlin's office have been unbelievable help to us. Our road supervisor made a few trips to Frankfurt, sat down with us, said, here's my situation, what can you do to help us out? And they give us solutions, so we appreciate that. I want to say this and then we'll end it. I think it's interesting that you came here to announce both Johnson County and Paintsville, because one project that you announced last Friday at SOAR was a project that's going to benefit this community greatly. And we were awarded $4 million for a sewer line expansion project. And I think it's important that you recognize, and I think everybody recognizes, that we see this as, yes, there's a city of Paintsville, there is a Johnson County, but we are a community. And I think the mayor and I have worked on this for, it's going on about 8 or 9 months now, haven't we?
No, remember now.
We were on city council together, that's right. So yeah, so we were on city council together, so we've been working on this for a long time. But in our capacities now, we've been working obviously since January. But it's important that we work as a community because we know that's how we will succeed. And so I think it's interesting that you were here to announce funding for both groups, because it is a community effort here. And we're going to keep pushing forward. We know we've got challenges, but we also believe that our better days are ahead as well. And so we're going to keep pushing. and solving our problems and working together to make this happen. So we want to thank you again for.
Judge, I'm going to make the same comment I made at the Chamber of Commerce golf tournament. Thank you and Coach Runyon both for getting this county and city working together, and it's going to help all of us.
And well,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you all. We know that there are obligations. We're going to get a couple of pictures here real quick, and then we'll